Hello everyone, it's myself, Steph.
I'm Geneva.
What's going on, Kings and Queens? It's Fabian Bachelor, and this is Wealth to Live. So, Geneva, what was the first points that you kind of took away from the Malachi interview?
Malachi was lovely. He was very honest and open about what it is that he does. And he brought a lot of knowledge and intellect about the world of animation. He taught me so much that I didn't even know. I didn't even know that there was black animators in the field that were at an elite level. When I think of animation, I always go back to my early childhood memories of Walt Disney. I absolutely love Walt Disney, and it's still a firm favorite of mine to this day. So when I think about animation, I feel that you have to be really, really skilled technically, a brilliant drawer or artist. And Malachi helped break that down. And actually, you don't have to be those things. He actually broke down what it takes to be an animator and what you can do, or the different types you can animate and create brilliant work. And Malachi is a brilliant animator.
Oh, he is, and I think you make a good point because within the interview he's discussing like you don't need to go university, you don't even have to draw. So there's hope for me because I can't even hold a pencil.
I think I could have been fine if I didn't go to university. One of the biggest things that I learned at going to university for me at the time was knowing what to Google. I know it's not a lot. It's not a lot because at the time I had no idea what these TV shows were made with. I had no idea. So for me, that was the biggest takeaway for me. It's really not at all. And that's why I say I think I could have been fine not going to university. And especially now in this day and age, it's even more true now in this day and age with what we have, like the internet. There's so much information out there. Sometimes depending on your field, what you're going to learn is going to be obsolete by the time you finish. So you don't need to, no.
I like that what he was saying is just as long as you stick to being you and kind of studying the industry more and your craft and your style of drawing. And he was breaking down so many different points. Like there's different types of animation. There's digital. There's the freehand. He was getting real technical. I think he really broke it down, and anyone that's aspiring to be an animator, he made it clear the steps you need to take to become a successful one.
I mean, just to touch up on what both of you definitely say, I definitely think that we're also turning an era, because I do believe that we're probably one of the last era that were, go to school, go to uni and just get like a steady job. And a lot, and the YouTube era, the internet era, the direct consumer type of era has really just shattered that myth that it was, you go to school and you get a job. If you ain't got a degree, basically your life is over. That was pretty much what we were brought on.
Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of parents out there that discourage their children from doing some of the things that they desire from an early age, and they don't really, see that as a viable career. But that is probably going to be where your child makes the most income in what they're passionate about. And I would be advising parents out there to listen to your children, encourage what they want to do, inspire them to get out there and put themselves out there, and have a go at doing whatever that thing is, whatever that passion is. That's going to be what is going to set them apart from the world, and hopefully that will lead them to leaving their mark on the world as well. So I think that's quite crucial. And I think even if you are at an older age, you've gone through life, you've worked a job, you've worked a 9 to 5, if there's something you're passionate about, start it today. Don't be afraid. Have a go, learn, educate yourself, look for other people that are doing what you aspire to do, and give it a go, because you never know that tomorrow might change for you.
For me, I learned that myself in the last few years. Like you're saying, I grew up on work hard. You got to work hard. And it's not until a very good book, I recommend people to read, is Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week, that showed me it's about working smarter, not harder. And, doing loads of things such as outsourcing. Making sure, if you can outsource some work, that'll give you more time. And loads of things like becoming a middleman, making sure that you can, earn 10-20% of other people doing the work. So for me, especially in the black community, is something that we got to learn about. That it's not necessarily about working harder,
Definitely
physically. It's about being smarter. You know. So another one being perseverance.
Yep.
And not falling at the first hurdle. You know, I think a lot of us, we face losses and we feel like this ain't for me. You know what I mean? We give up, whether it's a business, whether it's a job we're going for. And I think it's important that we learn from these losses. Like I said before, you know, for me, before I started the business I'm doing now, Vanna, which is a logistics company, I had several other failures. You know, I done a pancake stall with my brother in Elephant and Castle. That didn't work out. I tried to be a carpenter, and I realized I wasn't a master builder. You know what I mean? I tried so many other things, and if I didn't have that perseverance, I wouldn't have got to, you know, where I am today. So definitely, I think that's a key point.
And just to add on that as well, I think, like, I'm really gonna just talk about the new generation. I feel like, you know, with the Instagram era, where basically you put it out and there's so many viral stories, I think that we've forgotten the process. You know, most people tend to think, I've got to make it within the space of three months, 6 months, a year max. Not understanding that every single business out there, to be even called a brand, you need a minimum of 5 years. Now that sounds crazy to a lot of people, to be like, I'm going to be doing something consistently that could fail, or that's not bringing in a lot of revenue for 5 years. You know, most people are looking for, if this not working by next year, I'm done.
It's facts. And I think you made a good point highlighting Instagram. I think a lot of people look at other people's success and don't know if it's even real, and B, how long it even, you know, took them to get there. And I think we want it now. We're not interested in waiting 5 years or even 10 years or even 15 years. And 100%. When you look at most rich people, they usually get rich over a longer period of time.
I think at the end of the day, like, that was something that I struggle with, because I'm pretty much a perfectionist, and sometimes I don't like to go into things knowing that it's going to potentially fail. And sometimes that might actually stop you from even from starting anything. And then I had to watch a lot of interviews and, you know, sort of even my own experience, and realize that in order to get good at anything, you need to fail a couple of times so you can readjust.
Yes.
And a lot of people, and I understand, you know, it's very scary, they don't like to fail in public, because nowadays, you know, everyone celebrates failure in a way. When somebody says, I'm going to put the biggest rave on, and only one person turns up, you know what I'm saying? They want to close shop.
That'd be my worst fear, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I advise anybody to do any research on the biggest celebrity, entrepreneur, anyone that they admire. Just do some research and find out from when they started to when they actually, well, you would deem that they made it. And I bet you there's a good 20 years gap. Somebody like a Jay-Z, for example, first tour was in 86, and we all probably only knew about him from about like late 90s. So do you have that dedication for 20 years?
Yeah.
To just...
Jay-Z was a hustler. It took him time, and he was always going around many people like the Nas and, you know, other artists that were bigger than him at the time. But you have to keep honing your craft. And, you know, if you hear Jay-Z's flow when he first came out, 86 to 90, he was completely different to his kind of conversational rap that he has now. And now you don't even see him. He's just behind the scenes.
Exactly.
So, no, I think that's an important point. But another, takeaway that came from Malachi's interview was the fact that he said you need to give your work out. You need to, you know, if someone's got a project, you need to do it for them and let them see your work.
That's it.
So it's like a sample. And I think a lot of us want to get paid now, you know, before the client or the person even knows our levels or, you know, 100%. Our capabilities.
If there is a job that you want and let's say your competition is other people who are also after that job, start doing the job that you're applying for and send them a little piece. That's what I always used to do, and that's what used to help me get a lot of the work that I was doing. Then it's like, okay, they can see what it might look like. It instantly puts you ahead of the competitions. That's probably the single most beneficial thing that I did and still do occasionally. But I don't need to do it as much because of all the work and clients I got under my belt. But that's one thing I did at the beginning when I was more of an underdog.
And I think that's something that is a big selling point. When you can show someone without them having any risk what you're about.
Exactly.
That builds trust, that builds confidence, which is key factors in business or, you know, work relationships.
100%. I mean, you got to look at things in a very simplistic way. If you've got a shop, or let's say you got a food truck, and you want people to taste your food, but they've never tasted your food, they don't even know what it's like. How are you going to ask someone to give you 10, 20, 30 pounds when they've never tasted your food? You know?
It's facts.
You know, you got to figure, okay, let me chop down that chicken. Let me give out samples of my jollof or...
You have to. When I was doing that pancake store, that's what we were doing. We were chopping up them pancakes and we were giving them out in little bite size. Now they didn't really move, but you know, we had to do that, and it's vital. So yeah, that was a definite a key factor that, you know, Malachi was discussing. Another thing that we asked him and we spoke about was his pricing.
If you're an animator or a creative in general, you know that it depends on a whole bunch of things. But some of the things I try to bear in mind is how much money do I need to survive in the time that it's going to take me to do it? What am I going to walk away with? Because if I'm not going to walk away with a lot, then it essentially means that it's just the product. Right. So then after that, I have to think about how can I make it more efficient so that I can get some take-home pay. So how I price it now is I try to think about what's the average amount for something like that, who the client is. For the same job, I wouldn't charge the same amount to a billion pound company that I would an individual who just wants to get their thing made. So that changes it. I mean, there are loads of different kind of rates for animation in UK and all over the world. Some of them would be like the amount that's actually on offer from the individual or from the company. Sometimes if it's more like client or corporate work, then they will charge a day. So I've seen prices per day going from 150 a day to 230 a day. But also that's in my section of animation, which is 2D animation. So a lot of explainer videos and things like that. If you go to do 3D animation, then that's maybe, what have I seen? That's maybe between 200 to 400 a day. And obviously either a bit less or a bit more, depending on where you are and what you're doing and what company you're working with.
And how he kind of, comes about that. And I think in business, pricing is really key. You know, it's important to know your margins. It's, you know, it might look good seeing all this revenue coming in, but if your outgoings are crazy, then you ain't making no money.
Definitely.
So it's important to understand your margins. And I think, Malachi, he gave a little bit of insight into that, but I just felt like, you know, watching that interview, it was something that, you know, you should focus on.
Definitely. The thing with price is that, you know, I've struggled from that. Like, you know, I'm a personal trainer, online coach, let's say, and one of the worst thing you can do, or one of the biggest fear, and I'll admit, I still sometimes suffer from that, is when you tell them what you're going to do, you show them the package, and then you say, okay, it's going to be X and X, and there's just silence.
Yeah.
You know? That's just like, you know, like, it feels like you're about to die.
Yeah.
But that's the truth. That is it. Like, you need to work out exactly how much it costs you to make whatever you need to make or whatever service you need to provide. And then you got to put your margin so you can survive. And if that person says no, that's them. That's on them. That just basically means, okay, that product is not for them, or, you know, it just doesn't fall into it. But you should never look at yourself and think, oh, am I pricing myself out? No, if that's your price, but you also got to be careful. Sometimes if you're going to price yourself high, you got to think of yourself also as a premium service or product. So that means that you need to provide extra values. Let me give you an example. Primark and something like I don't know, Balenciaga. They're not, the price is not the same.
They're not the same, man. Whole different ballpark.
The price is not the same. They don't have the same customers.
Yeah.
One probably has less customer, but when that person opens up their wallet, the price is completely different. And what I'm trying to say is, the way they talk to their customer is totally different because they understand who their customer are. So I'm saying to you, when you're thinking about your structure and your price, you need to really, really cater to that customer. If you're talking to a customer that you know is unemployed, there's no point in talking to them about something that's over their budget because you know that's going towards a no. And that's okay. You should be okay with telling your prices, and if they say, oh, that's not for me, you shouldn't look at it as, oh, he doesn't want to support me. You shouldn't think that way at all. You should just be, okay, those are my prices and those are the kind of customers I'm looking to get. That's all I want to say.
I agree with you. I think it's something that, you know, you got to factor in when you're working out your prices, like your audience, how long it's going to take you, the costs and things like of that nature. But some people use it as a tactic. Yeah. Some people go extremely high and say, this is it. Yeah. Because it creates that kind of like, all right, if only one or two people get it, it's exclusive kind of thing.
100%.
So it can be used as a tactic.
I think sales are important and knowing how to sell is important. But I think when it comes to pricing your services, it's important to understand what value you are bringing. You've got to place value on who you are and what you're delivering, and I think that's something that people also forget when pricing. So they forget, they charge for the services, they work out everything that they need in order to make a profit, but they don't factor in their value and their time. And I think that that's where it's difficult, because it's like, how do you equate what your time is worth if this is something that you're putting out, if you don't understand your value? And I think that's something that people should really take time to understand, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. You know, you have to factor all of those things in. You got to do your research. You got to look at the competition. And like you said, you got to weigh up the competition, but you got to weigh up your value. Yep. You know, for me, when it comes to Vanna, we structure it on hours and our own experience being on the road, and you know, fuel, and the time it'll take to get from A to B, and then obviously factor in a little bit of profit, and also you got to factor in things that might go wrong.
Yep.
You know, a little 10% if something goes wrong.
Exactly. So
these are all of the things you got to kind of have in mind when you are pricing yourself, or giving a price to someone.
Exactly.
But yeah, Malachi, another thing that I took away was the versatility. He was talking about being versatile or just being yourself. And I thought that was an interesting point, because it was like, sometimes you need to pivot, whether it's, you know, being in business or, you know, being in a career. It might not be working out. And sometimes you have to either come away from it, look at certain factors that are not working out, or just in a business, change the whole model.
This is it.
You know, one that comes to mind is Kevin System, the owner of Instagram. Now, originally it was called Bourbon, and it was like some chat for people to kind of just talk, and because that's his favorite whiskey or something like that, or favorite drink, and that didn't work out, and then he just stripped it away and just left the pictures and renamed it to Instagram. So it was a whole business model change, and it just shows you how, you know, people you know, have versatility. And that's necessary in business. But also on the flip, like what Malachi was talking, some guys in the animation zone just stick to their style, and that can work, and that can happen throughout business. You look at Elon Musk at Tesla.
That's it.
He was told, like, electric cars ain't gonna be popular. You know what I mean? Like, no one, they ain't gonna pop, and he stuck at it. And you know, Teslas are being rapped about now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a cool thing. You know, so I think there's no wrong or right being versatile.
Definitely not.
Or sticking to your guns. But you gotta know, it comes back to understanding your value.
This is
you know what I mean? It's all a network when you're dealing with business and you're dealing with trying to succeed. There's a lot of things that go into it. But that was a key point that he, you know.
And when he said that, it really resonated with me, because even in my online a coach business. When I first started, I wanted to just train everyone, you know. So, but you don't understand that when you're training everyone, you actually are pushing people away. You're sending the wrong message.
Okay.
You can't, the way you're basically, for example, if you want to train a woman, there's different type of women. There's women that's younger, and all she wants is just look sexy so she can go on holiday. There's the older woman that's got 1 or 2 babies and just wants to still look okay for her men. You know, there's the older woman that's thinking, you know, I just want to be able to move and not have back pain. Now, there's a certain way you talk to them. You know, they most of the time they're going to be talking about their bum, their tummy, but you can't talk that way to the men. Men are very egotistic, you know. It's very, you know, muscle and you know, I'm looking tough, and you can't talk the same way. Exactly. So think about it. If on Monday I put an ad talking about how to grow your bum, I've lost all the men. They're just like, I don't even want to hear this. And then on Tuesday, if I put a post or ad talking about how to grow your chest, I've just lost all the women. So it made me realize I need to really be laser focused on one thing. Because if I'm laser focused on a single niche, I've got a greater chance to actually capitalize on it rather than trying to be for everyone. Because when I'm for everyone, I'm actually getting nobody. Because everyone's like, who is he talking to? You know, it's all over the place. But if I'm saying I don't train women or I only train women, then all of a sudden there's only a class of people or population that I'll be training. And that's what I liked about him. The fact that he said, I just stay in my lane. And the fact that he stays in his lane, he's able to master his craft. And by mastering his craft, he knows that whenever somebody calls him, it's not to do something he can't do. It's to do something he's specialized. And plus, he actually can sometimes even back to the pricing. He can even dictate his price because he's one of the best in that field. So it's like, oh, well, we got to pay top dollar because we know he can do that. Rather than if he was trying to do everything, he probably wouldn't be good at most of these things.
You can't, you know, it's that saying, you know, jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly.
I mean, I think it's important to hone in on one speciality, so you can, you know, have fundamentals that you can grow from. I still think it's important to learn bits and pieces of the rest, but like you said, you know, it goes back to having that target audience and understanding your audience.
That's it.
But another thing he was discussing was the sharing ideas. You know, don't be scared to share ideas.
That's it.
Because he's like, he was saying that for many years he was holding animation ideas to himself.
I'd say forget about the fact that someone is going to steal your work, because it's more than likely someone is going to take inspiration from your work. And that's something you should just learn to enjoy, because there's so many people on the planet. It's if you have work that's good enough or whatever, or there's something exciting or new, different, educative about it, it gets attention. It's going to happen. So I'd say just not even worth thinking about. That kind of thing will leave you disabled as a creative person. I'd say for something like that, just forget about it. That's something that prevented me from even sharing a lot of my work for many months. And after a while, I was like, everyone else is sharing their work. I should be sharing my work.
And he kind of thought, no, everyone's kind of sharing their, you know, ideas. And what I took from that is like, sometimes when you've got an idea in you know, business or something you want to do, you don't want to share it because you're scared someone's going to take it. But again, you need to share it, because how's it going to get out there? How's it going to start? And also, what I like about sharing ideas sometimes, it kind of creates a onus on you. It's like, because someone knows it now, they're going to ask you about it in like a week or two. Oh, what's going on with that? So now you're like, yo, I gotta do this. It's like, yo, there's no, I can't be looking like, you know what I mean? So for me, you know, a part of just life as well is thought, and putting that thought out there will start the process of it actually manifesting. You know, one of my favorite books is The Power. No, The Secret, sorry. The Secret, and it just discusses universal law. And I think that's a part of it. When you share ideas, it was once a thought, now it's out there. Now you're starting the cycle of it actually becoming reality. So, you know, when he was discussing that, I thought, yeah, that's true. You know, that's real.
No, it's really real. And I think there's so many different factors with that way of thinking, because even myself, when I first got into business, I used to really hold my ideas and kind of figure everything in your head and think, oh, it's just gonna work.
Yeah.
But you don't even understand that sometimes by sharing that idea, someone's gonna be like, but what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't think of that, you know?
Yeah.
And
That's true.
that fear of somebody taking that idea and just running with it, you've got to really blame yourself. You know, if you've got the next Uber and you're going around telling you're going to create the next Uber and somebody takes it and does it before you, you have to blame yourself. How come you haven't been doing it? You've mostly been a talker and you're not being a doer. So I definitely believe that whenever you have an idea, definitely run it by people, and you've got to also test your idea because, you know, before you start investing in material stocks and everything, you've got to make sure that that's what people want. You know, you're going to talk about making trainers that are orange and you're thinking yourself, that's got to work. But your customers or the population, they're the judge. You know, they're the one that's going to say, oh, yeah, it's going to work. Or they're the one that's going to say, nah, mate. Like,
that's facts. And I think it's like, to add on to that, you know, we're not saying to, you know, speak to anyone, but speak to people that are trusted around you, because, you know, people can be scandalous and steal ideas. You know, there's probably cases of that out there.
Definitely.
But, you know, hopefully you got people that you can trust around you that you can speak to about your ideas, you know.
And as they say, any idea is not new. All things have already been done.
Exactly.
They're either copied and then people add their own stamp on an idea. So it's about that growth and taking something and then putting your 10% in and bringing something new out of it. So I think don't be afraid to share ideas. It's something within our community that is, you know, a big, oh, I'm not going to say this because I don't want this person to do that or what have you. But I think that if you surround yourself with like-minded people, you will in fact learn about how to give that idea and present that idea to the world. And you may also be able to consider things that you've not yet thought about to strengthen your idea and bring it to what it now becomes or what it evolves to. So
that's facts.
100%.
That's facts. And I think, like Geneva's just saying, like in our community, it's kind of rife. You know, it's like we rather stunt on someone. You know, like
100%.
we make it, keep it to ourselves, and you know, we don't want to even give up the formula. You know, and for me, it's like collaboration is better than competition.
Exactly.
You know, you don't know if by speaking to someone they might share that interest, like you're saying, or add something to the pot, and you can grow together.
Yeah, or they could just, like, half the time it would have taken you to figure it all out. They could just give you all of the tips that you need to do, A to B, and you can just follow it and not have to stress and spend lots of money and pay over 10 times just trying to figure out one sector or one part of that formula.
100%. And that's another thing as well, is that's also how you create industries. You know what I'm saying? You're going to like create that little business and you might need something else. But if you're not talking your ideas, you're over here by yourself struggling, you know? And that's that's what I would definitely agree, both of you, is you need to share the idea, because again, by sharing the idea, you're also indirectly creating a network. Because that's now all of a sudden you're talking about, you know, I don't know, it could be like tax issues, or it could be a software that you don't even know how to use. And that person might say, do you know how many times I've said an idea and someone said, oh, my cousin does that, or my brother does that, oh, I know this person. And you're like, and your idea in your head was, I'm just going to go to Google and pay for someone, you know, wasting money. So definitely, if you've got an idea, run it past people, run it past the right people, and definitely collect the feedback. The feedback is super important.
Being an animator as well is something that I feel like you don't necessarily have to go to university for, which is a lot of people, you know, aspire their children to go to university and things like of that nature. And speaking to Malachi is like, you know, it's not necessary. A lot of things I learned there, I'm not even really, you know, necessarily using being an animator. And I think there's a lot of industries or businesses that people go into that they don't even use their degree, you know, and they're in debt. don't get twisted. There's some, you know, I don't want no doctor operating on me that has never been uni. You know what I mean? You just learn it off YouTube.
Yep.
Like, I'm not trying to. There's some careers obviously you have to, like being a lawyer and things like that, engineer.
100%.
But I've seen people go to, you know, uni for silly degrees. So
100%.
you know, that was interesting. Them talking about that, like not being important, becoming an animator, going to university.
Definitely.
You know, what's your thoughts on
I mean, for me, it was very inspiring because, you know, the creative industry, being animator, anything within creativity, is so difficult for anybody to speak on. And most of the time, they either try to put it down to be like, oh, that's not a real job, that's not a real career, go to uni and secure a real job.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was able to say, no, I didn't need to go there, like I literally learned on the job, it made me realize that, you know, we're probably maybe even entering an era where university maybe starting getting reduced because a lot more people, or maybe a lot more of the younger generation, are not looking at university as the end be all, you know. I remember when I come out of college, do you know how many people went and got degrees in, trying to do degrees in history, in English, in like drama, like in so many different things. And now I know these people, they're not even working in those fields, you know, and it's not their fault. You know, the information they were given was go to uni, you come out of uni, you get a degree, you're set for life.
Yeah.
But
it's not the case.
that's not the
Because
case.
as we even look at like today, you know, what's gone on with the whole pandemic and things, it, you know, the economy can change in a flash, and there's no security, there's no job security out there anymore.
Nope.
So for me, that time you could have spent going uni, you could have started in that field, being an apprentice, you know, learning the craft.
Yeah.
Or if you want to start a business, start it. You don't need a business degree necessarily. It's good.
That's it.
As a foundation, if you can, you know, if you feel like you need it, but just starting it and gaining that experience is, for me, is priceless. And you know, I know people that have come out of uni and they've had 20 to 50 grand worth of debt. That's like you're starting minus in life. Like, you know, that's money you could invest it.
Yeah.
You know, imagine if you invested 50 grand 5 years ago in Apple or one of these stocks.
Exactly.
So it's I think it's something that we run to because we think as soon as we get that the certificate or that paper, we're set. It's cool.
set.
A lot of people think like that, not all, but it's something that, you know, we need to be wary of. We're going uni or getting certain education for the right reasons.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's super important within that field as well, because you can talk to anyone that went to uni to do something related to media. I bet you any money they will tell you that while they were actually studying, there was new things happening, and they were like, it's almost like they were like a year behind. You know, but they're a year behind, and then paying 20 grand for something that they still need to come out and still learn. So I think you've got to be smart. Definitely, if you're going to take the educational route, definitely make sure that before you get yourself in 20, 30, 50k debt, make sure that it is definitely something that you can do without having to spend that much money. I mean, Malachi talked about...
But invest in yourself, but not just invest in yourself like buying equipment or stuff like that, because you need equipment anyway. You can't do it without equipment, one. But two, try to eat right, sleep right, drink well, all this kind of stuff, because it all just contributes to how well you can be happy and focus, remain concentrated, process information, all of this stuff. So the reason I say that as well is I've had times where I get involved in a passion project, either for myself or for a client, and then I don't know, I just went so ham with it. I'd work on it from when I woke up to when I went to sleep, and then few breaks in between, drink coffee, stay up all night and thinking I'm a beast, and then realizing, oh wow, I'm making bad mistakes. I'm making loads of mistakes because I'm not processing stuff properly. So you need to sleep and you need to eat well and stuff, innit? So don't think you're sick because you're not sleeping, because it can be disadvantageous. So invest in yourself that way. That's one thing that I do now. I take a lot more care of my sleep, my eating and stuff. Investing in the shares market. Now, I haven't looked into it too much with animation. But some ways I suppose animation could be involved in something like that. Maybe is with video game companies. So I know recently, I heard recently Nvidia was doing well. And just in general, when new consoles come out, naturally there will be a little bit of a boost with the company and whatnot. And also things like Disney. So I'm trying to link this to animation, but also things like that. So while we've got what's going on, people are spending more time inside. Things to do with entertainment in that sense would be doing well. Going off topic, but yeah, I've reinvested myself that way. And for equipment, I only kind of get what I need. I get what I need at the time, and then I just use that until it stops working completely, and then I'll move on to the next thing, unless there's a huge change in it. I have thought about having a look at some animation courses though, because obviously what I did in university went from 2D in the first year to 3D by the end of it, and I don't do 3D animation. So sometimes I wonder, if I were to do 2D animation now with the kind of information that's floating around now and taught in a different way, could there be new things? So that's definitely something to look for as well. But I'd say, sorry to to be going on, but I'd say for anyone watching who's interested in animation, and you want to find and you want to do courses on animation that are offered online and stuff. So one thing that I see in a lot of courses is they start off, and maybe for the most part, by teaching the basic fundamentals of animation, stuff like squash and stretch and timing and all this stuff. Those are things you can find on YouTube. Try to find the things in courses that are not already on YouTube, because what I've seen a lot is there are a lot of courses by individuals that are things that you can Google and things that you can YouTube as well. So if you are going to do that for like courses in animation, then try and single that out. That helps.
I definitely think that this year, 2020, so many people were able to discover new skills that they never imagined they could actually learn. You know, there's so many software. I mean, there's so many like help out there, like skill. I think there's one called Skillshare. Is that it?
Yeah, Skillshare.
Yeah, Skillshare. What other one? You lot help me out.
Man, YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, biggest one.
Like, listen to me. Skillshare, I was like, Skillshare, YouTube, man.
It's true. The DIY.
Right now, YouTube is the go-to. If you want to learn something quick, you either YouTube that stuff or you Google it. And I think it now puts that weight of university kind of behind you, because you can literally, at the click of a button, access information. And you should use that to your advantage. And I think that whole perception of going to university or aspiring or what have you, you know, doing your education and getting a job, it's outdated. And it only teaches you how to be an employee at the end of the day. I mean, before I arrived here today, it's funny because I was watching a podcast that talked about exactly that, about the message that we've been brainwashed to dissect or ingest, and it's that you go to school, after that you leave school, you go to higher education, you get a job and you become an employee. It's not teaching you anything about money, and it doesn't teach you anything about being an entrepreneur. And I think that there are now resources out there that make it viable for anybody from any walk of life to be able to go and find out the information they need to progress in life. So I think YouTube and Google are really good resources and tools.
No, that's facts that you make, Geneva. It's like, this is why we create this platform, to discuss generational wealth and financial freedom. And I feel like in those institutions, that's not the first thing they're teaching, because if you knew that, you wouldn't go there, you know. And I think in the Black community, I'm about equity over equality. And I think that's one of the, you know, knowledge, obviously, and health and well-being. But wealth and building that amongst us is key to us growing as a people. And I think, you know, even if you just look from an individual point of view, how do you want your life to look?
Exactly.
You know, what is your so-called rich life? Because that's different for everyone. It don't necessarily mean you got to have cars and houses. It just means you have the choice, you know, to do what you want when you want.
Exactly.
You know, your rich life could just be traveling. Or relocating.
That's so true.
Or just spending time with your family doing what you want to do. But going to uni, getting a certificate, and then potentially getting a job is not necessarily going to put you on that path. You know, it might be your dream job, but that's something different. You know, if you're doing something that you're passionate about and you love every day, that's something different. But I think, like what Geneva was saying, is that these institutions ain't showing you the different paths you can go to create generational wealth and to create financial freedom, you know.
I mean, for me, I feel like the educational system just need a whole revamp. They are very, you know, they're very old-fashioned in their way. They still believe, I mean, I did business studies and marketing, and they were just literally, now they're starting to talk about entrepreneurship as a course. But entrepreneurship doesn't happen in the classroom. You know, it happens when you go out there and you fail and you fail and you lose money. That's when you smarten up and you know what to do. But these institutions are just literally hanging on to their life and really just trying to package anything they can to put it out there, you know. Another example, for example, my youngest sister, she wants to be an actress now. In sixth form, her drama teacher was telling her, go to uni and study drama. She's like, what? How's that going to get me on the path to potentially Hollywood? And they were like, oh, well, I've seen so many people fail. It's best that you go to uni and just get a degree. And that's the same, you know, that's the same lyrics we've heard.
Plan,
That's the one. Oh, just for security. Go and get yourself in debt.
And I think and I think it's
That's the truth.
Go get yourself in there. Good luck. Yeah. What, you know. But I think also we got to be mindful of is that it's we got to think about the generations and how they grew up and what you know, what
that's it
looked like for them. Because maybe that plan worked for them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when there was job security, when you could, you know, do one job for 20 years. You know
exactly.
what I mean? And call it a day. But you like goes back to being versatile. Like that's when you gotta realize and go with the times and see that things have changed, and not necessarily that plan that worked for that generation before is gonna work for ours.
No.
So it's you know, it's true what you're saying. Like, don't do your research and don't push your child to go into debt.
Exactly. Like just literally do your research and don't be afraid to let them fail. What if they fail? It's nothing to fail when you're 19. It's nothing to fail when you're 17.
That's
know?
when you should fail.
Yes, when you should fail.
That's when you should take most risks.
Exactly.
I mean, anyone under the age of like 40, I'm taking risks.
You gotta take risks, you know.
I'm taking risks.
Because when you're like 45, 50, is like, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's totally done. I don't want to say that, but you know, it's not. That's not when you're gonna just, you know, put your house up and gamble your dream. Some people do that, and some people, you know, it's worked.
But it makes sense because you're just looking at the I don't know if the correct word is ratios, but they say what the retirement age is, what, 65 or 67?
Yeah,
so
65.
obviously, you know, you've got a bit of time if you're doing it before 40 to take more risks to make up those losses. So it's not like you're just doing it because you're just a gambler. It's just it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And just getting back to one of your points before, I think investing in yourself is so key. Like that is the first thing I do and I look to do. You know, trying to learn, trying to research. One of my favorite books is Tony Robbins.
I haven't read that. I need to read that one.
Money Master the Game. And for me, that just opened my mind to so many different things, from compound interest into index funds and ETFs in the stock market, and it set me on my way on investing. You know, in general, especially in the stock market. And I think the more we can, you know, add value to ourselves and invest in ourselves by reading, by eating healthy. Because think about it, it's all good collecting all that money, all that guap. But it's like, if you're not healthy,
exactly,
that's all gonna go on trying to make yourself healthy again. So it's a holistic approach you gotta have. You gotta be, you know, mind, body, and spirit. You know, so that was a key point that you said.
But that's the thing as well. Just to touch on the rich aspect, I think that obviously any listener that's going to listen to this, they're gonna have a different definition of what rich means to them, and that's totally fine. You know, in my 20s, all I wanted was just a pair of Prada, and I was good. You know, I thought I was the one.
Yeah.
Some people, they just needed the latest car, brand new BMW, brand new Audi, and they're rich.
Yeah,
Some people. True. You know, being rich for them is the fact that their whole family's around them, that they can travel the world.
And there's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong. And I've come to the decision, or the definition to me that being rich is whatever makes you happy most of the time. You know, it's not because, you know, you're an investor, I've invested. That game sometimes can be hard on the heart. You know, you're putting £100, the next day you're seeing 200, the next day you're seeing £80. You're like, what happened?
Yeah. That's why you gotta have, you know, when you're just dealing with investing, you gotta have a long-term plan.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes back to us wanting it now.
Yes.
When you're investing, whether it's a business, in the stock market, in property, you gotta look 5 years, 10 years down the time. Don't look if it dips tomorrow, because you made a plan that this is gonna go up in 5 years' time.
Exactly.
So you gotta kind of budget your investments like so. But for me, a rich life is time. You know,
that's true.
When I invest, I'm buying back time, because time is the biggest, the most valuable commodity out there.
100%.
You know, once you spend time, you ain't getting that back.
That's true.
So for me, when I'm investing, when I'm trying to make money, I'm seeing it as I'm buying back time. You know, so that when I'm 50, 55, I don't have to think about working. 100%. I mean, like, not picking up no phone call, not running no business, not speaking to no manager. I just do what I want, when I want, like, and I've got the funds to the rest of my life
100%.
to do so. You know, my children or my child currently, just have one right now, but are cool. So that's the plan.
That's it.
Yeah.
But what you said makes sense as well, time, because I don't think anybody understand that when you're going to work, you're actually trading your time for that labor, you know, for that paycheck. And it's crazy because sometimes we don't even understand. And I've been I'm still in a way still, you know, a victim of this.
Yeah.
So we're charged, you know, oh, you want me to do some work for you? It's going to be like, you know, £20, £19, whatever. Some people are £8 an hour.
Yeah.
But when you ask them the question, how much is your life? They can't put a price on it. Yeah. But yet they can put a price for that, you know? So you got to really, really value your time. And you need to really understand that. That's your biggest asset. That's really, you know, throughout our whole life, that's all we're trying to do is to maximize our time. But we don't even realize that subconsciously we're doing the opposite. You know, we're doing so many different things to just waste that time away.
Yeah, it's true. And because they don't, a lot of people out there don't understand it, especially in the black community, is the fact that when they are going to work and they're putting these hours and the finances or the compensation they're rewarded with, that they just spend it straight. That's everything. So it's a vicious cycle, and then in 5-10 years time they haven't got to where they want. So that's why it's important that 10%, 20%, 30% each time you try and save or invest that money, so that in time that money will start working for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if people understood the value of time, then they wouldn't spend money on things like products.
Exactly. They wouldn't. Like, think about it, yeah. A Louis V, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a Louis V bag, that's what, about £1,000? And that's like a whole month of, do you know what I'm saying? If instead of putting £1,000, they said 1 month worth of work, I don't think people will go and buy it.
But the thing is, there's no, like we said earlier, there's no harm in having those things, and but you gotta budget for it. You gotta make sure that it's not affecting your priorities, your plan. You know, you're investing. It's not eating into your investing. It's not eating into any reserves. It's not eating into any expenditures.
Yeah.
You know, bills you got to pay. So if you do a budget, I think that's one of the biggest things I simply had to do was just do a budget. You know, because then you can start breaking down, you know, what's coming in and out.
Yeah.
And then you can see, what free money do I have on a month-to-month basis, and stick to it. And if you want that Louis V bag or the Prada shoes, it may take you 1 or 2 months, but stick to your budget. Yeah. Even if you have to save £100 or £500 per month. But I think a lot of people just see what's coming in, that revenue like we were talking about, and just let them outgoings flow.
Spend it.
You know, spend it. So, but one thing I wanted to do with, you know, this show, each time we do it, is have like a stock pick.
Yeah.
For each industry that we're discussing, or due to the interviewer. So obviously we're discussing animation. So I had a few stock picks that I thought would be good. Disney, obviously, is
it.
obvious.
It's obvious one.
Go in the game, you know.
That's it.
Need I say more? You know, Disney's cable and TV business, you know, generates like 43% of their total revenue. You know, when you think of animation, you just think Disney. It's just it's a safe play. Like, you ain't gonna make crazy money, but over the long term, you invest in Disney, you're nice.
That's it.
You know, I was speaking to the next stock pick was Apple. You know what I mean?
Nice.
I was speaking to Dwayne, our
Special editor.
you're gonna come on camera, but our DP / producer / editor / everything.
The men.
He was you know, talking about just Apple and all of the Mac that's coming out, because Apple recently started making their own chips for the Mac. I think was it Nvidia or someone like that were doing it before. But apparently this chip is supposed to be crazy. The graphics and everything like that is supposed to be out the game. And the thing about Apple is they've got so many products, but people don't realize how much revenue each products generate. Like, I was looking at their financial statements, and just like their App Store alone generates billions a year. Like, that could be a business on its own. Forget about their phones. You know, and then you talk about their AirPods, and then you talk about their MacBooks, and you know, and all the other things that they got going on. So for me, Apple's a company that, you know, if you're looking to invest, or, you know, because another thing the reason why I think it's important to talk about stocks is that not everyone wants to run a business themselves.
That's it.
So when you're investing in a stock, you got to see it as like you're investing in the business. You're part of that business. So, you know, if animation is your thing, but you won't want to start an animation business yourself, you can invest in companies that do animation or have something to, you know, do with animation. And, you know, obviously if you're animator, you're going to use an Apple MacBook. Another company is Adobe.
Yep.
I think 90% of the world's creatives use Adobe. I mean, that's it. Like, I mean, that's no other reason. Like, I'm done. You know, I put my money in. Another company is Nvidia. They produce chips, I think, for like PCs. They're very they were very synonymous with the boom in the gaming industry in the 90s. So, you know, Nvidia is, you know, a powerhouse when it comes to chips. And another company is AMD, Advanced Micro Devices.
Okay.
Now, simply put, AMD have their chips in PlayStation and Xbox. So that's it. Like, you know, that's a company that, for me, if they, in a sense, are when it comes to that semiconductor being in those consoles, that's kind of like not monopolizing the market, but it's like, you're nice. You know, you're in the two main consoles.
Yep.
So they're a big company. And Microsoft, you know.
Of course, can't forget Micro.
Can't forget Microsoft, you know, the Xbox. One of the biggest consoles out there. So those are my stock picks, you know, and I think if you want to get into the animation industry, you don't have to necessarily do it yourself. You can invest in one of those companies or another company.
Exactly. 100%. You got any tips for them in where they can potentially, what sort of places they can go and invest in terms of, if they're brand new, think about it, you're talking to some people that don't even know where to start.
Well, me, I just started within the last year. Literally, I started beginning of 2019. So, sorry, 2020, sorry. So it was, where would I get them to start? I would Money Master the Game, read that book.
Okay.
Any podcasters for me, a great podcaster, I don't mind, their brothers, Earn Your Leisure. That was a big podcast for me because I started investing before then, but they just cemented what I was like, you know, confident at. And just going online. Like, I go Yahoo Finance every day. You know, I always get alerts, set up my notifications for certain companies that I'm interested in. And I just, you know, I go on Yahoo Finance. And then what's the beauty about the companies that are trading on the stock market is that they're open book. So you just go on there, you know, anything that you buy a lot, whether it's Nike, you know, I buy Nike a lot. So it's like, I wonder what Nike's like. So you just go on their page, investor relations, look at their financial statements, look at their revenue, look at, you know, their cash flow, look at their debts, and you can paint a picture of what they're like. You know, hopefully we can get some expert on the stock market that we can bring on the show. Maybe have a little segment, you know what I mean, where you can break it down even more.
Exactly.
But for me, that's where I start. And when you're long-term investing, I think it's quite simple. You know, you look at the fundamentals of a company and you hold it, you know?
100%.
So, yeah, that's what I would look at.
Yeah. I mean, just to add on what you're saying, I definitely do believe that everyone should invest. No, I'm not saying invest your whole paycheck. I'm saying invest a small amount, but think about long term.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest point that I want everyone to take from this interview is really, or from this podcast, should I say, think long term. Stop thinking 3 months. You're not going to be a millionaire in 2 months. You're not going to be a millionaire in a year. Like, it's very, extremely difficult for that to happen. Like I said from at the beginning of the show, look at any successful person you know. Like, we were talking about Apple. Steve Jobs, he started this company in 1974, I think, or something like that. No, I think it was 1971, and he only blew like in the 80s. So think about it. You know, like, it takes a long time. Are you willing to be disciplined for 10 years to get that payoff? Or are you just going to go hard for 3 months and then quit because it's too hard?
It's facts. Yeah, I agree with you.
So definitely, guys, like, start thinking 5-10 years. The same way our parents used to think that, you know, we're going to be in the same job for 10 years. It's
true.
the same way we should
Long
be
term.
thinking about our investment long term. So when things like this, like what we're going through right now happening, you know, you're not phased because, you know, your plan is for 5-10 years. So whatever's happening here, you're going to ride it out. And then you're going to, you know, hopefully if there's another pandemic comes along, but you're thinking of the future.
No, it's facts. And I mean, another thing you can do as an investor, if you don't want to invest in pertaining to stocks, if you don't want to invest in a single company, you can invest in an index or ETF, which is basically a group of companies. So you're getting exposure to many companies, but with less risk.
Yep.
And you know, there's many ISAs out there. You could get a stocks and shares ISA, where you get, I think, up to 20,000 tax free on your capital gains and returns. So, you know, there's things out there where you can start investing and really make a lot of money long term. But we got to utilize them, and we got to have patience.
That's
you
it.
know, so that's it.
Key.
Anything to add, Geneva? All right. Well, that was Wealth to Live.
That was Wealth to Live. So if we maybe sounded a bit stiff, but we're gonna get better. We're gonna get better.
Gonna get better. It's the first one. It's the first one, and hopefully a first of many. So
Yeah.
you know, thank you for watching. Please subscribe.
That's it. Please subscribe.
Please like.
Please like. Follow us on Instagram on @wealth2live, and follow us also on Twitter @wealth2live.
Yeah.
And soon I think we'll have a Facebook. We're deciding on that. But yeah, follow us on the socials.
Definitely.